No matter how much money you have, somebody has less and somebody else has more. According to UNICEF USA in 2013, which is the United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, all you have to do is reach into your pocket and pull out 50 cents to save a child's life. Now, maybe you don't want to let the cashier keep your change for charity because you live paycheck to paycheck, but as soon as you know whether or not something is moral, you are obligated to act on it. It is morally correct to aid those in need, and if you agree, you're obligated to act on it because you are aware. Now, to prove this, we'll take a couple steps. First, we're going to need to decide what makes something moral, and then establish whether or not helping the poor is moral. And then finally, decide if, just because it's moral, whether or not we're obligated to act. Before we can understand this specific question, we need to understand some fundamental philosophy. Morality is personal, but it always holds a sense of justice. Immanuel Kant says in The Groundwork of Metaphysics of Morals in 1785, "Act only according to the maxim whereby you can, at the same time, will that it should become a universal law." Now, maybe you don't understand this quote, but you might recognize the message by another name, the Golden Rule. It's a simple rule, but it's weaved its way into how the Western world defines right and wrong. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Don't hurt somebody unless you are fine with them hurting you, and help people because you would like for them to help you. In ancient history, helping your fellow man was always the right thing to do, because when two people work together, their chances for survival skyrocket, and that ensures that the species goes on. But in the modern era, the subject of ethics has taken a much more complicated form. We have to ask ourselves questions like, what does it mean to be right, and why does it matter? But at the end of the day, people still typically feel an urge when justice is not upheld, whether that be pity for the person who's being subjugated or vengeance to the perpetrator. We still feel an instinct to protect what's right. So what is it that makes something moral? What makes something right? When it benefits each other and it doesn't cause harm. Now that we understand the basics of what makes something moral, we can apply it to our question of whether or not we are morally obligated to help the poor. It is morally correct to aid those in need. According to the Pew Research Center's Religious Composition by Country Model for 2020, the top two religions are Christianity and Islam. And these religions have had some back and forth, but both of them have practices that demand charity as an act of worship. For the Christians, the second of Jesus' commandments is to love your neighbor as yourself. And to the Muslims, the third pillar of faith is called zakat, or alms, which, if you didn't know, essentially means charity, giving to the church or to the poor, people who need it. Now, to me, this indicates that there's a decent chance that some of you in the audience already agree with me. People join together with a religion because it agrees with them, and if the two most prominent religions in the whole wide world each place importance on helping those in need, then I think it's pretty safe to say that the peer-accepted theory is that helping the poor is moral, or more specifically, morally correct. The poor are those who need more than the average person does, and by choosing to help fill that need, we're benefiting each other and preventing harm. Everyone benefits when there's less need, always. Now, if helping those in need is moral, failing to help is immoral because we know better. If you are aware of a moral, you are obligated to keep it. The Stratford Encyclopedia of Philosophy stated in 2018 that two conditions must be met for a person to be morally responsible for something. The freedom condition, that they are acting freely, and the epistemic condition, that they know what they're doing. In law, we call this mens rea, especially the mindset aspect of this. It means that the mindset that a crime is committed in is pertinent to the charge that you give the criminal. And at a surface level, why a crime is committed seems kind of trivial compared to what the actual crime was. But the people of the United States agreed, and a majority, that immoral acts committed for unjust reasons are more heinous than those committed at least partially unintentionally. The idea being that if you're not fully in control of your body or not entirely aware of what's going to happen when you do something, you should not be held as accountable as somebody who knew exactly what they were doing. Now that we understand the fundamentals of morality and that it's moral to aid those in need, and the responsibility that consists of knowing and acting, we can establish the answer to our question. In conclusion, is it morally correct to help the poor, even if you're aware then you have to be obligated to do something because you know better? Morality is about doing what's right, and generally it's accepted by society or culture. Our understanding of morality is fundamentally agreed to include helping others, especially when they're in need of assistance. And if we're aware of this, then we must choose to act, or else be willingly immoral. Mother Teresa is attributed to saying, "Never worry about numbers. Help one person at a time, and always start with the person nearest to you." So yes, helping the poor is a morally correct thing to do. And because you know better, you are morally obligated to do so. The counter to this is if you know better and choose not to, then you have to accept the fact that what you are doing is immoral. So next time you're asked to donate to something for charity, just remember that you know better.